कया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोर् श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायिने कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयादितरतश्चार्थे सुभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्म हृदयादिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। स्वस्ति अस्तु विश्वस्य खलः प्रसीदतां ध्यायन्तु भूतानि शिवं मिथो धिया मनस्य भद्रं भजतादधोक्षजे आवेश्यतां नो मतिरप्यहेतुकी। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 1, verse number 14. This is Sukadeva Goswami answering to Parikshit Maharaj's question, how one can become free from the cause of sins. So earlier Sukadeva has answered that one can do prashchitta, atonement, but King said that is just like taking the bath of an elephant, because you do prashchitta, then you do the sin again, and then again prashchitta. It does not remove the tendency for committing sin. So now he was talking about controlling the mind. Tapsa brahmacharyena shamena cha dhamena cha tyagena Satya Shauchabhyam Yamena Niyamena cha, that one slowly controls these senses, mind, be truthful, and then slowly one will be able to become free from the three types of sin one performs: body, speech, and mind. So he gave an example, just like the fire can burn the bamboo, which is generated by the bamboo's friction. So in the same way, by controlling senses, one can become free from the sin. So these two processes of prashchitta and then following these activities to become situated in sattva, these are all ultimately within the realm of material nature. And it's not a permanent solution. One is for the ignorant people, other is for scholarly mind. But now he gives his own opinion. So these both of these, this Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, are made Pur Paksha here. And Bhakti Yoga is the Uttar Paksha. So he says, Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya Vasudeva Parayanaha Abham Dhanvanti Katsena Niharam Miva Bhaskaraha. Says that there are some others who are Vasudeva Parayana, who are devoted to Lord Krishna, and they completely destroy sin as well as the very tendency to commit sin by bhakti, kevalaya bhakti, pure devotion. Just as the sun destroys the fog. So now he gives his ultimate solution that this Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga is not giving permanent solution. The solution lies in Bhakti Yoga. So this is the Bhagavatam's opinion that only through Bhakti one can become free from material bondage. Ye mamevaya prapadyante mayametam tarantite. Because whatever practice one does, that is still in the gunas of Prakriti. It is only the internal potency of the Lord which can dispel or transcend these gunas. So that is being described here. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he comments, he says, Atrapi Venu Gulma Anal Drishtantena Punarapi Papa Prahova Suchnad Aprasanna Manaskam Rajanam Bhaktanam Matena Kechaditi. So in the previous verse, he gave the example of bamboo fire. And now he says that when Sukadeva Goswami he was speaking this verse, he looked at Parikshit and he didn't feel satisfied. Because if the bamboo is burnt by fire, the root remains and then it will again sprout. Same like you cut the grass, then grass comes again. Or even if there is summertime here in India, everything dries up if you don't give water, it's so hot. But when the rains come, then everything again comes back. So he says, when he saw this, Rajanam Aprasanna Manaskam, he saw that king was not happy by this answer. So then he gives the opinion of the devotees. Ete punar virala prachara iti bhava. So he uses the word kechit, some, and that shows that bhakti is not very popular. It is virala prachara. Other processes are popular or the people like them, they follow, but when it comes to bhakti, then it's hard. All the bhakti is supposed to be easy, but it's not easy. And that is because we don't like to surrender. We can do everything else. We can bend down, bend our back, stand on the head, put our legs on our shoulders, we can do crow walk, frog walk, all types of things we can do, no problem. But bending the ego, that I don't want to do. I can bend everything else. So that's why yoga is good, because you can maintain your ego. Jnana yoga is even better, because your ego is even magnified. That you are everything, you are Brahman yourself. When it comes to bhakti, there is a trinadapi sunichaya. So then people just slowly start walking away. What is this? I have to become lower than blade of grass, I am nobody. So therefore it says viral prachar. So even when people come to path of devotion, they really just follow the externals and not the inner thing, because bhakti is dealing with the consciousness. Other things deal with the body, training the mind, senses, as we read, Sramena Dhamena. So this goes to the very root of the problem. Because why does one commit sinful activity? Because one thinks I am the enjoyer. And as long as that feeling remains, even if one is becoming a jnani yogi, still one is independent. And the problem is still there. Maybe it has been reduced, but it is not eliminated. So it is only in bhakti that one can become free from this very tendency, because bhakta is not independent. Bhakta does not have an independent ego, that's why we have the word Dasa after our name. So when that consciousness occurs or happens or is accepted, then where is the question of committing sin? If one has to commit sin, one has to forget that I am a devotee. So that's why he says that agham dhanuvanti kartsnena, that it is completely smashed. There is no possibility of it. Kartsnena means complete removal. Why? Because the very cause, the basis from which it is coming out is closed or removed, does not exist anymore. So that's why it is viral prachara, because this needs a lot of courage to do that. One has to sacrifice oneself. We can sacrifice things around us, not ourselves. So kevalaya karma jnanadi rahitaya. So kevalaya bhaktya, that bhakti which is not mixed with karma or jnana. So anya vilasita sunyam jnana karma jnanavritam. So people can also do that. This bhakti mixed with karma, bhakti mixed with jnana, which means they are trying to do bhakti to get the result of karma and jnana. That I perform some karma yoga, I do also arpana to Lord Krishna, Krishna arpana mastu. So then my karma becomes successful. Or same with jnana yoga, we do devotion to fix our mind, and then when mind is fixed, then there is no difference between me and the deity. So everything is mithya. So Shastra mithya, Guru mithya, Shastra mithya, Shastram janyam, Jnanam mithya. Everything is just illusion. So no mixture like this. And then Satopi Guni Bhutan Karma Jnanadin Anapekshmaniya. And sometimes there is this karma and jnana, they can be secondary to devotion. So secondary means that predominantly you do bhakti, but for certain things I can take help of some karma. I can do some little yajna to get rid of my disease or something. Or worship another Sunny Devata. Now I am going through this Saturn period. So I can also chant some Sunny mantra. Or go to Kokulavan in Vrindavan, near Braj there is a famous temple of Shani. Suddenly it has become so popular that now lakhs and lakhs of people are going there. Because everybody is troubled by Saturn. And people are going and praying there. So that is, and if devotee is doing, then he may be predominantly worshipping Krishna, but he is also taking help of that. So that is called karma jnanadi gunibhut. So that is kevala is not depending on any of these things. Anapekshama, not having any apeksha or dependent on any of this. That is called kevala bhakti. Atra kartsnena iti prayogat nihara bhaskara drishtantena cha papa nirmulanam bhaktya eva nanyatha iti suchitam. So here there is an example given here, and there was an example given before. There is a difference between these two examples. So the example here is like fog is destroyed by the sun. So we are experiencing this. There is a fog in the morning, but when sun comes, the fog is removed, and it is removed completely. There is no trace of it. But in case of the previous example, the bamboo is burnt, but the root is remaining and it comes back. So he says this example is to show that how it is destroyed completely, that it is not going to sprout again. So he says this is possible only by bhakti, not by anything else. न तथा हि अगवान राजन पूयते तपादिभिः यथा कृष्णार्पित प्राणस तत्पुरुषं सेवया. So Sri Sukdev says that, O king, a sinful person is not purified by austerity, etc., as it is purified by offering oneself to Krishna and rendering service to the devotees. So there is purification by prashchitta also, or by austerities, but it is not of the same type or same category. And reason is that it does not remove disease, it only cures the symptom, but not remove the cause of it. So one may get some temporary relief from that, but then one again does it. Atrapi papa prashamane तुच्छैव वस्तुनि भक्ति महादेव्या विनियोग अनुचित इति भक्ति शास्त्र तात्पर्य विज्ञानम मतेन स्वाभिमतेन अन्यमत आक्षेप पूर्वकमः इति. So now he says that those who know the real import of Bhakti Shastra, literature of devotion, they do not use bhakti for removing sin, because that is a misuse, and as we know that it is also one of the offense against the holy name, to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the name. So that is, you are trying to use God for something very insignificant. So some job which you can get done by an ordinary person, and you call the king for that, just because you have some contact and say, please can you, my toilet is blocked, can you come and help for that? So that's like using the holy name for removing the sin, is something like that. So that is a big disrespect to the king. So he says, therefore, to use the Bhakti Mahadevi for quelling the sin, Papa Prasamane, that is not uchitam, that is not appropriate. That is actually highly improper. So those who know this, they do not engage in devotion for that. That will happen anyway. So why even try to trouble and become offensive? So therefore he is explaining his own opinion now here with an akshepa or criticism of other paths. Because he is comparing the two now. He is comparing with the tapasya, etc., the path of Jnana Marg and Bhakti. He is putting them together. पाप कर्माणम माम समुचित शिक्षा दंडार्थम नरके पातयतु न पातयतु वा सैव मे गति तस्यैव अहम् इति आत्मन एव समर्पणेन Narka pratikaram api akurvan Shuddha Bhaktiman ityartha. So he is using the word Krishna arpita prana. He is explaining the meaning. So he says Krishna arpita prana. Krishna arpit means offering, prana means life or oneself. Offering oneself to Krishna. So what does it mean offering Krishna to oneself to Krishna? You offer yourself to Krishna and then you pray, well, please take care of my sins. So then you are not surrendered, which means you are still being independent. Because if you surrender to Krishna, then let him do what he likes to do with you. So he says, therefore he says that if I have to be sent to hell by Krishna to give me proper punishment, to give me proper education for my sinful activities, let him send me to hell. That is the meaning of surrender, that I accept whatever he is doing with me. I don't object. So that is the meaning of arpana, that is the meaning of sharanagati, surrender. And whether he sends me to hell or he does not send me to hell, he is my very shelter. Saiva me gati. Tasaiva aham, I belong to him. Iti atmaneva samarpane. So in this way they give complete surrender. Samarpan means not keeping anything. And the do samarpan of their own very self. So on every other path, we keep ourselves separate. And then we can do charity, we can do some welfare work. But we remain what we are. So this is the distinction between bhakti and other paths. So narak pratikaram api akurvan. They do not try to counteract the result of sin going to hell. So let them suffer if they have to suffer, or if they have to be in comfortable situation, that is all right. Whatever is the will of the Lord. Yatha tatha va vidhatu. So prananathastu saiva napara. So my prananath, the Lord of my life, is only He and not anyone else. So this is the mood of a devotee. Krishnarprit pranatvam katham syat ityah tatpurusha. And how does one become like this? What is the solution, or what is the process of surrendering to Krishna? So he says, Tatpurusha nisevaya. That is by doing service to the Purusha, or people who are belonging to the Lord, which means devotees. So that is the symptom, which means surrender to the Guru, basically. That is the process to offer oneself to the Lord. So now he continues to speak on this. Sadhri chino hi ayam loke pantha kshemo kuto bhayaha sushilaha sadhavo yatra narayana parayanaha. In this world, this indeed is the most appropriate path or process, which brings protection from everything and makes one fearless. Otherwise everybody is in anxiety because of some situation in the material world. Nobody is really peaceful here. Some problem or the other is always happening, something which we do not like. But it is only on the path of devotion that one can become peaceful within. External situations, there is nothing much you can do. You cannot change external. What you can change is internal. So that internal is peaceful, akuto bhaya, there is no fear. And he says, on this path, who are the people who are walking on this path? He says, Susila sadho yatra narayana parayana, those who are devoted to Narayana. And they are Susila, they are very gentle in their behavior. They are the sadhus. They are balanced, not harmful, not envious, not trying to cause disturbance to others, compassionate. These are the sadhus. So they take to this process of Bhakti Yoga. Nacha Jnana Yoga Vratadi Asamartham Eva Bhakti Yoga Iti Vachyam Ityasa Dhrishina. There is a very popular belief among the people here in India that those who cannot take to Jnana Yoga, they do Bhakti Yoga. Because they think that those who are real intelligent people, they follow Jnana Yoga. And those who are little dull, then Bhakti Yoga is for them. And then one day slowly they will also come to Jnana Yoga. So this is, many people think like that. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti refutes this. He says that Jnana Yoga Vratadi Asamartham Eva Bhakti Yoga Iti Navachyam. That don't speak like this. That those who cannot follow the vratas, the austerities, and the path of jnana, they take to Bhakti Yoga. There's a famous book, Slokvartik by Kumaril Bhatta. So he writes like that. Purvamimamsakas also think like that. Of course, he is talking about Jnana Marg. That those who are lame, deaf, dumb, useless, they take sannyas. Seems like that. He said because they cannot perform the karma, because they are not actually allowed to do karma kanda. For karma kanda you also have to have perfect body. So he says because these people are not qualified, so what do? They take sannyas. So similarly the jnanis, they say that those who are useless, they are not intelligent, they cannot understand Vedanta. So they do bhakti, they go to the temple, they do kirtan, because they cannot understand Shastra. So he says that is not the reason. So for that he speaks this word Sadrichino Hiyayam Loke. He Nishchitam. He means certainly, without a doubt. This is the conclusion. Ayam eva sarvatah shrestha. So Sadrichinam means that this is the best process. It's not for invalid people or dullards, handicaps. Na kutopi vignader bhayam yatra. So this is the one which brings ultimate welfare, kshema, and akuto bhayam makes one fearless, because there is no cause of fear here. Why? Because there are no vigna or obstacles on this path. So it is said that apratihata, and there is nothing which can obstruct devotion. No one can stop it. Susila sadhava iti jnana marga eva asahaya ta nimittam bhayam naapi Karmarvan Matsaradi Hetukam Bhayamiti Bhava. So he translates these two words, Sushila and Sadhava, as having no fear. Because on the path of Gyan Marg, and same on Ashtanga Yoga, there is no help, asahaya. There is no God to protect you. Because Krishna says that I protect my devotees. Kante pratijanihi namad bhakta pranashrati. So he says, I protect my devotees, and Same Bhakta Priya, my devotee, such a devotee is dear to me. So he is not bothered about others. Samoham sarvabhutesu nama dveshasti na priya ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya. Only those who worship me, tesam ham samuddharta. I uplift them. Sansara sagara. From this material world, I uplift them. So he is not saying this for Jnani or Karmi, that I uplift them or I protect them. He does not say that. He says that Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshishami ma sochaha. He is giving this guarantee. Do not be in grief, do not lament, do not fear. I will uplift you. So on the path of Jnana, there is a fear. And there is danger. And napi karma margvan matsarta dihetukam bhayamiti. So on the path of karma there is other type of fear of envious nature. You do something, Indra is always fearful. Somebody does little tapasya and his Singhasana is shaking. So he is always in anxiety that somebody is going to come and uproot me. Because in Karma Marga one is looking for pleasure, and pleasure is never enough. No matter how much you have, this is never sufficient, and then there are other people who are competing for it. There is always a limitation of resources. So there is always envy, jealousy. Why this guy has a bigger car than me, or a bigger house than me, or a more beautiful wife than me I have. There is always jealousy, even if they may be smiling at your face, but inside they are happy when something bad happens to you. They will come to see you and show external sympathy, but inside they are happy that it's good that this happened to this rascal. I was only hoping. So this type of feeling is there when there is material desires. But if we have spiritual desire, then the spiritual world is unlimited. It's not that there is only one person who can become a devotee and others cannot. So therefore there is always these qualities of jealousy. That's why in the Bhagavatam it is said, Dharma projita kyatuvatra nirmatsaram satam. So this is the path of nirmatsarta. No envy. Because that is possible only in devotion. The devotees, they are non-envious. Why to be envious? For what reason? And if we are envious, then we are not devotee. So this is what Krishna shows in his pastimes, with so many gopis around, that they are not envious of each other. Otherwise, if two girls fall in love with one man, then they hate each other. And that was not the case with the gopis. So you see, this is what happens with the stream after some time. And it goes like this. There's nothing you can do with it.
It just stalls like that.
Every time. So only the path of devotion therefore is free from this. That's why yasya asti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarve guna tatra samasate sura. All the good qualities along with the deities of these qualities, they come and take shelter in the devotee. And those who are not devotees, they don't have any good quality. Even if they appear for some time, they are not really. Because their mind is ultimately for enjoyment. Dhav to mein. So there are no good qualities, although this point people don't like to hear. They will say, well, I know so many nice people. Yes, they have some sattva, some qualities, but when you do analysis from spiritual point of view, then these qualities are also not good qualities, because ultimately these qualities are coming from God and they are serving, they are subsisting on the energy of God, but they are not recognizing it. As Krishna says that those who cook for themselves, they are eating sin. Even if they are earning money by legal means and not offering it to God, still he says, Tene vasa. He is a thief. And he is eating agam only. So that we can understand only from spiritual point of view, otherwise these statements are very disturbing. And how can we talk like this? Prashchittani chirnani narayana parang mukham nanispunanti rajendra surakham bhaimi vapagaha. So he says that if one engages in the atonement but is not a devotee of the Lord, then these atonements cannot purify. That means atonement can also purify one only if one is a devotee. So this is something which is very special philosophy of Bhagavatam, that both karma and jnana, they cannot give their result without bhakti. And the reason is that there is ultimately one absolute reality. It is not that the result of karma is given by somebody and the result of jnana is given by somebody and the result of bhakti is given by somebody. There is only one tattva. Vadanti tattva tattva means jnana advayam. Brahmeti. So yogis are going for Brahman and the jnanis are after Brahman and yogis for Paramatma. But it is only one Advaya Jnana. So if one is not devoted, then it is not possible. So he says that non nispunanti, they do not purify. He gives an example, surakumbha vivapami. Just like if you have a clay pot in which you store wine or liquor, then you cannot purify it just by cleaning with water, because it goes inside the pores. You have seen clay pot, you use it in the summer here to cool water, and the water seeps out from the pores. That's how it makes it cool. So that water evaporates and the inner water gets cold. So it goes inside and the water cannot clean that. So like that, the prayaschitta cannot clean unless one is a devotee of the Lord. Because it's only bhakti which has the power. Everything else is, karma is also inert. That's why Purnamasa is refuted in Vedanta Sutra, because how can karma give its own result? So for that reason he says that it does not purify. Kincha anvaya vyatireka bhaktireva papa prashamani drishta na jnana karmadi ityah praschittani. So he says both by the positive statements that only bhakti purifies, and the negative statements that without bhakti is nothing which can purify. Sreya bhakti udasya te vidho klishyanti ye keval bodha labde. Those who give the auspicious path of bhakti and try for impersonal realization, then स्थूल तो साव क्लेश लेव तेषां शिष्यते स्थूल तो साव यथा स्थूल तो साव घाति नाम. Then their result is only klesha. They don't get it. So Bhagavatam's philosophy is that Mam chayo, Gita also Mam chayo vyabhicharana bhakti yogena sevata sagunan samatittekam. Arjuna asked this question, how can you transcend the gunas? It's only by bhakti, not otherwise. It's not possible. So therefore he says that Anvaya and Vyatirek, because a cause is known by Anvaya and Vyatirek. When cause is there, the result is there. When cause is not there, the result is not there. So when there is something by which some effect is coming, and in the absence of that there is no effect, then we say this is the cause of it. So it is seen that when bhakti is there, then sins are removed. And if bhakti is not there, then one does not become free from sins. So that means it is only bhakti which is the cause behind removing the sins, pap prashana. Na jnana karmadi, not jnana or karma, etc. Therefore he says praschittani chirnani narayana parammukham bahuvachanena karma jnanamayani sarvani ityartha. So the plural is used. He says all these processes of karma and jnana and praschitta, nothing can help. Narayana parammukham bhakti bhakta utkarshiho sutayorapi tatra shraddhahinam na punanti. So Narayana paramukh means those who are not devoted to Lord Narayana, even after hearing the superiority of the path of devotion as well as the devotees themselves. So they are not having faith in it, Shraddha. So faith is the beginning, Ado Shraddha, that is the beginning part, and this is the most difficult thing to get. Because when one has faith, then one begins the process. So generally faith people do not have, and therefore they do not get purified. Bhaktistu jnana karmadi hinam api kunati. And bhakti, even if one is not a scholar, even if one is not engaging in karma kanda, simply engaging in devotion, it will purify, but it has to be pure devotion, as it was said, kechit kevalaya bhaktya. So this was said earlier. Then he speaks one more verse, continuing this, and then after that he will give an example. Sakrin manah Krishna padar bindayor niveshitam tadguna ragiyairiha nate yamam pasha bhritascha tadbhatan swapnepi pashyanti chirna niskritaha. Says that if one has fixed one's mind even once at the lotus feet of the Lord, tadguna ragi yairiha, those who are attached to the qualities of the Lord, then they do not see Yamaraj or his servants who are carrying the ropes in their hands to bind. Even in the dreams, you will not even dream of them. Why is that? Because Chirna Niskrita, they have performed all atonement. So why should Yamaraj come to them or Yamadutas come to them? So this is the greatness of bhakti, that even a little contact is enough for it. So Sri Vishwanath says that Natra bhakti bhuma api upekshaniya ityaha sakritapi. That it is not that you have to do a lot of bhakti for a long time. Just once. Sakrit mano. Krishna Padaravinda. Kim punar asakrit manopi. So now Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has a very special characteristic of using this Kamutya Nyaya. He is very expert in that. So now he is going to use this Kamutya. Means what to speak of. So he says that even if you do it once, and then what to speak of, you do it many times. Asakrit. And manopi, he will take every word and use this kamutya, fixing the mind, and what to speak if you engage all other senses also. And how wonderful that be. Kim punah shrotradi. Tacha mano gunaragi vishyasaktam. And using the word gunaragi, though it looks like that this is about people who are attached to Krishna's quality, but he says those who are guna also means vishaya. Those who are attached to the sense objects. And what if somebody is not attached to the sense objects? Punar guna raga rahitam. Swapna api, not even the dreams. Kim punah sakshat. So you will not see it in the dream. What to speak of seeing face to face? That is no chance. Tavan matra dhyanena eva achirnam niskritam praschittam yaiste. Says simply by thought of Krishna one has performed all the praschittam. So therefore it is not possible that such a person will ever go to hell. Atra sakrit ityadi padaihi kasyachit shuddha bhaktasya daivat papanam pauna punya api utkhat dranshtor gadansanam iva tesham kinchit karatvat kunjar shauchvad akshep vishayi bhavo anuchito. So he says that here the word sakrit or once has been used. So he says it signifies that sometimes a pure devotee also somehow may engage in sinful activity. So he says that should not be compared with the bath of an elephant, and it happens in the karma marga. He says it is just like the bite of a snake who has no teeth. So it does not do any harm to such a devotee. As Krishna himself says, apichet suduracharo bhaste mam ananya bhag sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavashtava. So even such a person may sometimes, it will not happen generally. Actually, Jiva Goswami writes in Bhakti Sandarbha that this verse from Bhagavad Gita is about a person who does not have Shastriya Shraddha. Because there are 4 types of Shraddha: Shastriya Shraddha, Sattvic Shraddha, Rajasic and Tamasic. So he says one who has Shastriya Shraddha, he cannot engage in Durachar. It is not possible. That is the very meaning of Shastriya Shraddha. Shraddha, yayat Shraddha sa eva sa. You are where your Shraddha is, because you act according to Shraddha. So if my Shraddha is in Shastra, how can I do something which is against Shastra? It is not possible. So therefore he says that if this is said that apichet suduracharo, somebody is in suduracharo, that means he is a devotee, because bhaste mamananya bhag. But he is a devotee in sattva shraddha, sattvic shraddha. Not Shastri Shraddha. He says, even such a person, Krishna says, is sadhu, but to speak somebody who has Shastri Shraddha. There is no doubt about that. So this is the greatness of Bhakti. This is the supreme path where there is no cause of any fear or anxiety. It is all auspicious. Sadhrichina Pantha. And this is actually the only real path. Because other paths don't lead you anywhere if you don't take help from Bhakti. So this is the answer to question raised by Parikshit Maharaj, that how can one become free from sins and not suffer in hell. And now he is going to tell a story as an example of Ajamila, which is very interesting. And very interesting, specific story which has a very special message in Bhagavatam. So read that tomorrow. Any question, comment?
Well, there's one section, there's a little section in the Bhagavad Gita, which I have to say, it almost seemed like a wasted opportunity.
Wasted?
It seems like a wasted opportunity in some ways, where Arjuna straight out asks Krishna, Te Sanke Yoga Vidama, Ye Chapi Aksharam Brahman, Bhaktastvam Paripasate, who Te Sanke Yoga Vidama, which of these is the most complete known of yoga? The Jnani, who follows Akshara Brahman, or the section. And Krishna says quite clearly, next verse, the bhakti is higher.
And
then he goes, and so, great, if he put a full stop there. But then he goes on to say, but the Jnanis also reach me. And then the only reason he gives, and I'm not talking about the commentaries now, we just look at the Mukhya, the primary text, is that I am the deliverer. It is quicker. And so one comes away, if you just read that section, one comes away with the impression that actually they're sort of both the same, they both end up in the same place. Bhakti's a little bit better because it's quicker. And when I say it seems like a wasted opportunity, because there was an opportunity where Krishna could quite clearly make a metaphysical statement and say, that I am beyond Brahman, or I am, the source of Akshara Brahman, and that I'm metaphysically higher, but he doesn't. So, do you have a comment on that, or?
Well, the comment, first of all, of course, he says, Klesho adhiktaraste sam avyakta shakti sam avyakta gati dukkham. They have, it's a very clear statement. I mean,
it's harder.
Yeah,
Klesho. Make it better in a metaphysical sense.
Okay. Then second thing is that...
That's methodological.
Second thing is that Krishna, he has to also care for Gyan Margis. So, this is what is called Parokshvada. And there is a lot of Parokshvada even in Bhagavatam. Although there are very clear statements, but still you will find so many statements. Aham Brahma, Aham... What is that? Last, in the end, Sukadeva Goswami himself speaks like this, that Taksha Niskalai. If you read that, Aham Brahma, Brahmaham, seems like a complete Mayavad statement. So reason is that, and this is what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, on which he wrote the whole paper, he makes this in the very first verse, that this is like a Kalpadruma, Bhagavatam. Or Veda itself is Kalpadruma, wish-fulfilling tree. So it gives shelter to everybody. Otherwise all these people will become atheists. So that is the actual reason, and that's why there is this Parokshvad, that you have to do little bit of struggle to figure it out. In his statement he says, Sukadeva says that Ghate binne yatha akasa. Akasa said, this verse. Akasa said yatha pura. Evam dehe mrito jiva brahma sampadete. And as the pot breaks and the akash means sky in the pot mixes with the sky outside, like that when the jiva dies, body is finished, attains Brahman. And then he says later on, Aham Brahma Param Dhama Brahma Aham Paramam Padam Evam Samikshan Atmanam Atmini Adha Niskale. He says, I am Brahma, I am Param Dham, and again Brahma, I am Param Padam. Thinking like this, fix your mind on the Atma, Dashantam Takshakam Pade Leli Anam Sanane Nedrakshasi Shariram Che Vishwam Che Prithagatmane. When Takshaka will bite you, then you will not see this body and the universe separate from you. Etatte kathitam tata yathatma prishtvanrupa harer vishwatman cheshtam kim bhuya. And now after that he brings Hari suddenly. So if you take these verses without reading the next one or without what he has said before, I mean the very first verse says Atra anuvarnate bhiksham viswatma bhagwan Hari yasya prasadjo brahma rudra krodha samaya. That Hari is being described here in Bhagavatam everywhere. And then he starts a count. So this is all. Later on, even in conclusion, he says that this is Sarvedant Saram Hi Srimad Bhagavatam Ishyate Vastvadityam Tannishtam Kavalek Prayojanam. So these are all Advaitic statements. But then you cannot just take one statement and so therefore Vishwanath gives the analogy of the churning of the ocean, that those who are suras, they get the nectar from churning this, and those who are others, they don't.
That's kind of a related question about that. Many people that I know who are like Advaitin scholars feel that Shankara himself was quite open about whether Brahman is ultimately Nirvishesha or Savishesha. That he preferred Nirvishesha Brahman, but he didn't deny the reality, that he didn't negate the possibility that there is a Saguna Brahman.
Yeah, but his Saguna Brahman is
It's the
not
fourth
ultimate.
pada of the Vedanta Sutra. It gives both options.
Yeah.
It's right?
Hmm?
In the fourth pada of the Vedanta Sutra, both are there. The Vedanta Sutra accepts both Nirvishesh and Savishesh, right?
Yeah, Bhagavatam also
Itself.
accepts.
No, I know, but from the perspective of
But
Shankara.
Shankara is not
Yeah.
accepting that.
Well, I haven't looked at it myself, but there are a lot of people who are saying that
His
he
Saguna Brahma
doesn't,
is...
that this absolute rejection, like this separation between Saguna and Nirguna is
If you read
negating the possibility.
if you read Shankara, you read the commentary on the Chatu Sutra, the first 4 sutras. That is what his whole Siddhanta is there.
Mm-hmm.
All this Adhyasvad is there, right there in the first sutra. That is very clear there.
About what?
That Brahman is this Nirvishesh Brahman is the ultimate reality.
But you're saying that you know people that are questioning that.
Questioning that, yeah, I haven't looked at it
You
yet.
might want to get some verses. And
They promised to read it with me at some point, but be good scholars of Shankara, very good scholars of Shankara, who are saying that even if within Shankara there's the possibility of interpreting him as saying,
He makes a statement that the name of God and worship of Salagram, this is all Adhyas. I don't have the exact words, but he says this.
So even if he, I guess my question though is, even if he does say that, and if others, Sureshwar, Vachaspati, whoever, they say all these things, couldn't we, in some sense, given the way that, Jiva Goswami and others say that there is both there,
Jiva Goswami is saying it, right?
can't we be sympathetic? Well, that's
Jiva
their way
Goswami-
of looking
Jiva
at
Goswami is
it.
very clearly said in Bhagavad Sandarbha again and again in the very beginning that this Brahman, only thing is that the contention is this, that the Brahman of Shankaracharya and Brahman of Bhagavatam are two different Brahman. Brahman of Bhagavatam is Sashaktik Brahman. And Shankaracharya's Brahman is Nishaktik Brahman. His Brahman is without potencies. Jiva Goswami's Brahman, he says that just like when you have, he gives this example of Visheshana and Visheshya. So that's why it is called Nirvishesha. It's not that the object is Nirvishesha. This is where the difference comes. It is not that the object is Nirvishesha, but your realization is Nirvishesha.
Which object? What object as in?
The Tattva. What you call Brahman, Bhagavan, whatever you call. The Tattva is not Nirvishesha according to Jiva Goswami.
Yeah.
The Tattva is Savishesha.
Right.
It has qualities, it has energies.
Yeah.
But you can have two types of realization of that. You can have Savishesha realization, that is the Bhagavan.
Right.
You can have Nirvishesha realization of that, that is Brahman.
Right.
But Shankaracharya is denying that this Tattva has energy. That's where the problem, that's why we object to that.
He has to, because it's Advaita. If you have Shakti, then you have Dvaita.
Yeah. So therefore, for us, we are also Advaitvadi. Bhagavatam is saying Jnanam Advayam. But for us, Advaya does not mean that it does not have. So that's why Jiva Goswami comes with the idea of Achintya Bheda Bheda. That it is one only, but it has its Shaktis, and their Shaktis are rooted in that one. Therefore, they are not independent. So in that sense, it is one. But there is a variety in that one. Just like you say Neel Kamal, blue lotus. It is only one object. It is not that blueness can stand separate and lotus can stand separate. It is one. But you can have realization of the blue lotus without its qualities or with qualities. As in Nyaya, they have Prataksha. So first Prataksha is indeterminate and then there is determinate. It is the same object. So in our case, this indeterminate, there the indeterminate Prataksha, perception is only momentary and you automatically move to determinate. Here you can get stuck there.
Nirvikalpa.
That is Nirvikalpak. So you can have Nirvikalpak Prataksha of the Absolute and be in Nirvikalpak. That's what Jiva Goswami says.
But he's going to ultimately say it's not eternal. He's not
Who?
Jiva.
No.
You always said, as I recall, you have said on occasion that the Brahma, that realization of Brahman is not eternal. Eventually you come back.
No, I never said that.
So you can have an eternal.
Yeah, Sayuja Mukti and Bhagavata accepts.
Sayuja, okay.
Five types of Mukti.
Right.
That is in ISKCON.
Yes,
Bhagavatam does not say that. Sayuja is accepted.
Into Brahman though.
Yeah.
Not into Sharira.
Sayuja, there are two types of Sayuja.
Yeah.
Also, but there is Bhagavat Sayuja and Brahma Sayuja.
So if you take the Brahman Sayuja, that's it for all eternity.
Yeah.
So you can never then go further.
Yeah.
So that's a kind of unfortunate situation.
That's why
from the
devotees
point of
don't
view.
want that.
Yeah. But then it seems that that almost seems like you make, so the decisions you make in this life set you up for eternity.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a scary
That's
thought.
the meaning of sadhana. That is the meaning of sadhana. And after doing sadhana, if you attain your sadhya, then that's it. Now, what is the meaning of sadhana? You become a siddha then.
But then you don't have any chance to reconsider. Or
Why should you have any chance? At that point,
Because-
you are not dissatisfied.
Well, no. But I mean, in one little lifetime, you meet, because of karma, whatever, you meet this guru and not that guru, so you end up in Nirvishesha Brahman for all eternity. That's starting to sound a little bit like the Christians.
Yeah, but now you listen. And the fact is that these things are only for understanding. No one really gets it. Because even to attain this Nirvishesha Brahman, you cannot get Brahma Sayujya by following Shankaracharya. Why? Because even that you have to do bhakti. Mam cha avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sayata sagunan samtityetan brahm bhuyaya kalpate. So this Brahma bhuya is only by avyabhichari bhakti. And avyabhichari bhakti means you have to actually accept that Krishna is an eternal person, not Sagun Brahma, that he's as in Panchadasi he says that Maya has two children. One is Jiva and the other is Ishvara. Maya Kamdhenu, Do Vatsa, that Maya is a Kamdhenu, cow, and give birth to two Vatsas, two Kaf, Jiva and Ishvara. So the Malin Sattva Upadhi makes Jiva and Suddha Sattva Upadhi makes Ishvara. This is their explanation of Ishvara. So with that you cannot reach Brahma Sahajya. Therefore, according to my understanding, in Sankaracharya and this, there is no question of Brahma Sahajya. They don't go anywhere. That's why Bhagavatam says, Shreya Shrutim Bhakti Mudasyate Vibho. Those who are only the Klesale Vishyate. Patanti Yadha. Anadrit Yushmadandre. They fall down.
Which verse is that, by the way?
Bhagavatam, I think it's in the prayers of Brahma. 10th Canto. So it's very clear. One is 10 to 32. Yanya Arvindaksha Vimukta Manastvaya Satya Bhava Vishuddha Buddha Aruya Krishna Parampadam Tata Patanti and Honadriti Svanamaya.
10 to 32?
Yeah, the other one I think is 14th chapter prayers of Brahma.
So no one really, realistically, is going to go for Nirvishesha,
Yeah.
right? Who's going to engage in bhakti and then say, okay, Krishna, thanks, now just head for the Nirvishesha Shakti? Who's going to do that?
Nobody. So it's actually for us to understand so that we don't fall into this trick. The whole idea is all this comparison is done here for our understanding. This thing is there, it is available, but why would one like to go there? So possibility is one thing. I have possibility of jumping from the roof, but
Well, the asuras.
does it mean I will do it?
Yeah, the asuras, at least 2 asuras attain that.
Which asura?
Um,
Yeah,
well,
asuras.
Agasura attains one type of sayuja.
Yeah, asuras may attain.
And there's another one that attains, it's mentioned somewhere, I'll try to remember.
Yeah, so
His head
Krishna.
cut off?
Pardon?
The one that gets his head cut off?
I'm just trying to think, and it said something about it attains.
Shishupal. Or Dasa.
No, he attains Sharira Sayuja.
Yeah.
Doesn't his this light enter Krishna's body? Same as Aga.
Yeah.
It
So
seems
asuras may get this, but usually no one tries for it. And these people will never reach anywhere. They're wasting their time.
seems to be plenty of people that do
Because
want
their destination does not exist. We try to understand that. There is no Nirvishesha Brahma.
So there is also no voidism of the Buddhist.
Yeah, therefore Buddhists themselves say that even Buddha has not attained Nirvana. They give a reason for that, but
Or maybe Bodhisattva.
yeah.
Right, okay.
So, but actually the real thing is that he cannot attain. Their reason is that he is compassionate, he is waiting, but our reason is that it's not possible, you know. So God gives shelter to everybody. So Buddhists are happy with their understanding. Sankaracharya followers are also happy.
I think my concern, and it's just a sort of, this has nothing to do with metaphysics, is that when we speak like this, we sound incredibly sectarian.
Yes, yeah, we are.
And it's very unattractive
No, ma'am.
to those outside of the little circle.
I'm
of
agreeing that
regulation.
we are sectarian. I'm not saying we are sectarian. There is no doubt about it. We may not speak like in sectarian language, but we are.
Okay, full spade is spade.
Because God Himself is a sectarian. He says, Samoham Sarvabhuta, so I'm equal to all, I'm not sectarian. But in the next line He says, I am Ye Bhajanti Tamam Bhaktya. That means he's biased towards His devotees. So if we are devotees, we must be biased. But this is a sectarianism which one should opt for and one should desire for.
I just think we need to be very cautious in how we articulate our
Right.
sectarianism,
That is another.
especially in international
Yeah, obviously we cannot talk
formats.
like this. But what I am saying is that this is usually sectarian is considered as bad
Yeah, right.
for whatever reason. But this is a good sectarianism. Although we cannot talk like this
Yeah.
outside, but at least we ourselves should know that we are actually sectarians. There are no two ways about it. And we are so sectarian that we even consider Vishnu as inferior to Krishna. At least others, Vaishnavas don't say that. For us, Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan, he is even above Vishnu. We are such sectarians. We are even sectarian that Krishna in Dwarka is inferior than Krishna in Braj. In the limit of sectarianism.
And there's also, I think, an inclusive sort of sectarianism, and there's a more exclusive sectarianism. So, I think sometimes.
Yeah, but this sectarianism is not like harmful to others because it includes others also. That's why if you see Lord Chaitanya, he had devotees who were worshipping Nrsimhadev, who were devotees of Lord Ramachandra, but they are devotees of Lord Chaitanya. So this is inclusive of them. Even gopis, they were worshipping Narayana
And Devi.
Katyayani. So this is inclusive. That's what I'm saying. This is in a way it is sectarianism, but it includes everything also within it. But people will not understand it like that. That's what I'm saying. This is a sectarianism which is not bad or harmful to others. Why people are afraid of sectarianism means you will be biased, you will harm them, or you exploit them, or you think they are useless. It's not that type.
One technical term I've heard used is overcoding with the Hindu, not just us, but many Hindu traditions say like, ours is the best, but then there's others that are below it that they have meaning. They're below it, us, but nevertheless they're important and they're relevant and people can find fulfillment and meaning in them, but they're still underneath this.
Well, one term for that is hierarchical sectarianism.
Yeah, I guess overcoding sounds better.
Overcoding?
Overcoding, yeah.
Overcoating?
Overcoding.
Coding.
C-O-D-I-N-G.
What does that mean, overcoding?
It means that you're coding, you're giving an order to things, but you're placing yours over
I see.
every other one. It doesn't sound as bad as sectarianism.
Hierarchical sectarianism, or inclusivistic sectarianism.
Yeah, it's not fanatic sectarianism. It's not a type of sectarianism that I am sectarian and then I want to convert everybody to this, or if you don't follow this then you are a demon. And it's not that type. And that's what I mean, that Krishna gives support to everybody. He's also giving support to demons.
It seems with regard to Vishnu and maybe even Shiva and other deities that that's more of an issue of rasa, whereas the issue with Advaita Vedanta is more ontology, it's in metaphysics. I mean, I can imagine, maybe get your feedback on that, we can say like to a devotee of Vishnu, it's just not the sort of bhava that we want to cultivate. But Vishnu's there, he really does exist. Whereas it seems like what you're saying, that this Nirvishesha Brahman, as the Advaitins are thinking of it, it's not actually
It's
there.
not existent.
Whereas we can say the bhava of being
Because
Dasa, it
nothing,
really does
you
exist.
see, even in the material world, nothing nirvishesha can exist. You try to understand what nirvishesha is, how can it exist?
But I mean that, there must be some correspondence, and I suppose one might say that some state of high sattva might be a state where there is no rajas, and therefore
That's what I'm saying, that
there might
these
be some
people,
state of nirvishesha sattva.
these people, Shankaracharya, whether he was, I mean, our understanding is Shiva's incarnation, he knows and he did it to bewilder people. But if we don't accept that and we think he was actually doing what he was doing, then my understanding is that these type of people, they realize Mahat Tattva, which is also called Brahman. Mama yonir Mahat Brahma tasmin garbham dadhami. And this Mahat Tattva, as you know from Sankhya point of view, is very, very close to consciousness. That's why it is able to catch that consciousness from the soul of Purusha by its proximity, and then it becomes like a conscious thing. So they get a glimpse of that. And this is as described in Bhagavatam also, Hiranyagarbha, it is very light, effulgent.
Well, it seems like they can also be sarvavyapaka.
It is sarvapaka.
No, the Atman can be sarvavyapaka through the Mahatattva, so that there is an experience of sarvavyapaka.
That's what sayuja means.
Yeah.
That you attach with it and then you
And
feel.
sarvajna,
Yeah.
because if you're pervading the Mahatattva,
Yeah,
then
you know everything.
You know everything.
Yeah.
So that is a state of omnipresence and
Yeah.
omniscience,
Yeah.
and sat because it is, and it's chit
And
because
there is immense ananda in it.
because there's no dukkha.
There is no dukkha in it.
So
But in the material world also, all happiness is coming because of no dukkha.
Yeah, I mean, we have to sort of, it seems to me, we have to recognize some legitimacy in these traditions.
No, I recognize that.
that,
I'm
you know,
not saying.
people have been so intensely devoted to,
Yeah.
and clearly must be getting
Obviously,
something.
they have some experience. But what I'm saying is that they cannot get out of this without bhakti. That is not possible. That's very clear in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is not wasting time for that. Mameva ye prapadyante mayamekam param.
Do they sort of agree with that in the sense that didn't Shankara establish the worship of 5 deities as part of
Yeah,
sadhana,
Panchopasana.
the Panchopasana? Isn't that sort
The
of
smarta.
isn't that sort of just airwave agreeing? So what you're saying?
I don't get it.
That they are practicing bhakti on some level.
Yeah, but Krishna of course is talking bhakti to him. Mameva ye prapadyante. Eva. Not to Ganesh or Devi. Right. So somebody has to download it.